Hello my dear friends, how are you all? I hope you all are good and fine. So my dear friends, you are very welcome in our lecture number 2 of statistics. Okay my dear friends, so today we are going to discuss a very important topic which will help you in the upper classes. Okay my dear friends, so now my dear friends, I hope you will enjoy this lecture. So without wasting the time, let's start. Yes. So guys, today we are going to discuss mean of grouped data. Okay, in previous lecture, okay, we already learnt about the mean, what is mean, but now here we are going to discuss about the mean in details. Okay, yes. So basically in statistics, mean is one of the measures of central tendency apart from the mode and median. Okay, mean is nothing but the average of the given set of values. Okay, it denotes the equal distribution of values for a given data set. Okay my dear friend, so my dear friends, it denotes the equal distribution of values for a given data set. Okay, so to calculate the mean, we need to add the total values. We need to add the total values given in the data sheet and divide the sum by the total number of values. By the total number of values. Okay. So we can write mean is equals to sum of all the observation divided by total number of observation. Okay my dear friends. Okay, let's suppose we have a number like this: 2, 4, 6, 8 and 10, and we have to find the mean. So how we can find it? We can find it like this: mean is equals to 2 plus 4 plus 6 plus 8 plus 10 divided by what? Yes, how many numbers are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Means 5 numbers are there. Means we have to divide by what? Yes, we have to divide by 5. Okay, if we add this, we get 30 upon 5, which is equals to 6. So what is mean? Yes, 6 is the mean. I hope my dear friends you understand this question. So now my dear friends, this is possible because the data is small. This method is possible because the data is small. When the data is large and in the intervals, then the method to finding the mean is different. Okay, so let's see. Yes, so first of all, finding the mean for grouped data when class intervals are not given. We have to find the mean of the group data when class intervals are not given. So in this case, the formula is for group data without class interval. So class interval we already learnt in the previous classes. Okay, so now my dear friends, what is the mean in that case? So mean in that case, we have to represent the mean as x bar. What is x bar? Okay, so this meaning is this is the what? Mean. This is the representation of mean. So the formula of this mean is summation of xi fi divided by summation of fi. Okay, so this is what? Yes, this is the formula of mean. This is the formula of mean when the data is in grouped form but not in class interval. Okay, so f is what? F is the frequency. This sign is what? This is the submission sign. This is the what? Submission sign. Okay, so let's do some examples. Yes, so my dear friends, so the first question is, find the mean of the following data set. Find the mean of the following data set. Okay, so now my dear friends, we have a data like this. So my dear friends, in this data we have to find, from this data we have to find the mean. So we have no frequency, so in this case we can directly find the mean. How? Yeah, so the mean is, we know that x1 plus x2 plus x3 plus dot dot dot, how many terms? 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10, means dot 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 x10, and divided by 10 because there are 10 terms. So here is 10 plus 20 plus 36 plus 12 plus 35 plus 40 plus 36 plus 30 plus 36 plus 40. Okay, divided by 10. If you solve this, we get 295 divided by 10, so we get 29.5. So we have mean is what? So mean is 29.5. What is? Yes, 29.5. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you get this point. So the mean of the given data is 29.5. Okay, now my dear friends, second question is, find the mean of the following distribution which gives the scores obtained by students in a quiz. Okay, so my dear friends, we have a number of students and we have a marks. Okay, for marks there are 20 students and 1 student which have 43 marks, 4 students which have 38 marks. Okay, my dear friends, so we have to find the mean of this following distribution. Okay, so now first of all we have to create the table to find the sum. Okay, so here is marks which represent xi. Okay, which represent is what? X of I. Marks is what? 25, 43, 38, 42, 33, 28, 29 and 20. Okay, my dear friends, so now number of students, this is what? This is frequency. Okay, it means 20 students having marks 25, 1 student having marks 43. Okay, so this is what? This is the frequency. Okay, so in the question we have given this like this. So we have frequency is what? 21, 4, 2, 15, 24, 28, 6, and if we sum this we get submission of Fi is what? 100. Submission of Fi is what? 100. This is what? Submission of Fi. Now we have to find Fi into Xi, means this into this. Okay, if we multiply 25 into 20, we get what? 500. If we multiply 43 into 1, we get 43. This is what? Fi into Xi. Okay, my dear friend, I hope you understand these things. If we multiply 38 into 4, we get 152. If we multiply 42 into 2, we get 84. Similarly, here we get 495. Here is 672, 812, 120. Now if we do submission of Fi Xi, means we have to sum of these numbers, so we get 2878, and we know that mean is equals to submission of Fi Xi divided by submission of Fi, and we know the value of submission of Fi Xi is what? 2878, and submission of Fi is what? 100. Okay, and if we solve this we get 28.78. So this is what? This is mean. This is what? Yes, this is the answer of this question. So my dear friends, I hope you understand these things. Okay. Yes. So now let's move on. Now my dear friends, we have to find the mean for group data when class intervals are given. When class intervals are given. Okay. So my dear friends, when class intervals are given, in that case, first of all, we know that mean is equals to summation of xi fi upon summation of fi. Okay. So this is the formula of mean. Now, in the case of class interval, we have to find first of all the class marks. We have to find the class marks. Okay. And we already know class mark is what? Class mark is equals to upper class limit plus lower class limit divided by 2. So this is the class mark formula. Okay. Yes. Okay. So now my dear friends, there are some methods. Okay. Yes. First is direct method of finding mean. What is? First is direct method of finding mean. Okay. So my dear friends, in this method, direct method of finding mean, there are some steps. Okay. So step number 1, first of all, classify the data into intervals and find the corresponding frequency of each class. Okay. This is given in the question already. After that, find the class mark by taking the midpoint of the upper and lower class limit. Okay, find the class mark, and in second step we have to find the class marks. Okay, then the class mark is what? The class mark is become xi. Okay, and then we have to find the xi fi, submission of xi fi, and we have to find the submission of fi. Okay, so after this finding, so we have to divide submission of xi fi by submission of fi to get the mean. Okay, so now let's do that. Yes, we have a question, and in this question we have class interval and we have number of students. Okay, my dear friend. So now, first of all, let's create the table. Yes, so now my dear friends, we have class interval. Okay, and we have fi, means number of students. This is what? This is the frequency. Okay, so now, so the next step is that we have to find the class mark. What is? Yeah, and the class mark is what? The midpoint of class interval. Midpoint of what? Class interval. So what is the midpoint of 10 plus 25 divided by 2? Okay, so this will become 17.5. And in the second case, if we find the midpoint of this interval, we find 32.5. Okay, and if we find the midpoint of this interval, we get 47.5. Similarly, here is 62.5, and here is 77.5, and this will become 92.5. Okay, my dear friend. And for finding the mean, we have to find fi xi. So this class marks is our xi. What? Yes, xi. So now we have fi and xi. Now we have to find fi xi, means we have to multiply fi into xi, means this is our f1 and this is our x1. So we have to multiply this. So we get 35. Okay, and this is our f2 and this is our x2. So this will become 97.5. Okay, and if we multiply this, we get 332.5. If we multiply this, so we get 375. Okay, my dear friend. And if we multiply this same with, we get 465. Okay, my dear friend. And if we multiply this, so we get 555. Okay, so now we have to find submission of Fi, means we have to find the sum of these entries. So we get 30. We get what? 30. And submission of Fi xi, which gives, if we add these entries, so we get, so this will give 1860. What is? Yes, 1860. Okay, my dear friends. So now, my dear friends, we know that mean, which is equals to submission of Fi xi divided by submission of Fi, and we have 1860 divided by 30. If we divide it, we get mean is equals to 62. Okay, so my dear friends, this is very easy to find mean from this method. This method is known as direct method to finding the mean. This is known as what? This is known as direct method. Okay, so now let's move to the next method. The method is assumed mean method. What is? Assumed mean method of finding mean. Now this is the second method, okay, of finding the mean when the class interval is given. So in this method there are some steps like this. First of all, same, we have to classify the data into intervals and find the corresponding frequency of each class. Find the corresponding frequency of each class. Okay, so now next step is find the class mark by taking the midpoint of the upper and lower class limit. Okay, third step is, now in this case, in the third step, this is very important step, take one of the x's, usually one in the middle, as the assumed mean. We have to take one of the xi as a assumed mean. We have to assume the mean and denote it at by a, and denote it at by a. Okay, and now we have to find the deviation, which is equals to xi minus a, means we have to subtract x1 minus a, we have to subtract x2 minus a, we have to subtract x3 minus a, step by step. Okay, so we get the deviation. We get what? Deviation. Okay, and now find the mean of deviation. What is the mean of deviation? So the mean of deviation is submission of Fi into Di, means we have to multiply F1 into D1, F2 into D2, F3 into D3. Okay, after that we have to find submission of Fi Di and divided by submission of Fi. So this is what? Yeah, this is our mean of deviation. What is mean of deviation? Now calculate the main mean. What is? Mean is equals to a plus submission of Fi Di upon Fi. This is what? This is mean of deviation, means we can write it as x bar is equals to a plus d bar. A plus d bar, which is called as mean of deviation. I hope, my dear friend, you understand this step. So now let's understand this step by solving the question. Yes, now same we have the question. Find the mean of the following distribution by assumed mean method. First of all, we have to convert it into this table. Okay, and we know that submission of f is what? Submission of Fi is 30. Okay, now we have to find again what? Yes, class marks. So this will become 17.5. This will become 32.5, because this is the midpoint of this. This is the midpoint of this. And okay, now the midpoint of this interval we get, yes, we get 47.5. The midpoint of this interval we get 62.5. I hope, my dear friend, you understand this question. and the midpoint of this we have 77.5. Midpoint of this we have 92.5. Okay, now my dear friend, we have to what? We have to assume pre-mean. We have to assume the mean in this. Okay, so let's suppose we are assuming 47.5 as a as what? As a assumed mean. What is? Yes, assumed mean. So this is our what? This is our assumed mean, which is a, and we have to find the deviation, which is equals to xi minus 47.5, means xi minus a. Okay, what is? Yes. Now if we subtract this, if we subtract each of these xi's from the a, so we get, here we get minus 30. Now here we get minus 15. Okay, and if we subtract 47.5 minus 47.5, so this will be 0. And if we subtract 62.5 minus 47.5, so this will become 15. This will become 30, and this will 45. I hope my dear friend you understand these things. So now we have to find fi di. What is? Yes, fi di. Okay, means we have to multiply this term into this term. Okay, we have to multiply f1 into d1, so we get minus 60. If we multiply f2 into this into d2, so we get what? Yes, we get minus 45. If we multiply f3 and d3, we get 0. Similarly, here we get 90, here we get 180, and here we get 270. So this is what? FIDI. Now we have to find this sum, and submission of FIDI we get 435. If we add all these terms, all these entries, we get 435. Okay, my dear friends. Now my dear friends, we have to find mean of deviation. So this will be submission of fi di divided by submission of fi. Okay, my dear friends, and if we solve this, we get 14.5. Okay, now we have to find x bar. We have to find x bar, which is equals to a plus d bar, which is equals to a plus d bar, and we have a is 47.5 plus 14.5. This will be 62. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you get this point. So what is? Yeah, so we have x bar is equals to 62. This is our correct answer. So my dear friends, if you observe that if we find the mean from any of the method, it will be direct method, it will be assumed mean method, the answer will be same. In this direct method, the answer is what? 62. Okay, in this method, in this assumed mean method, the answer will be again 62. Okay, so whatever the method you applied, the answer will be the same. But in some of the questions, for very large quantity, for very large data, we have to use these steps, we have to use these methods. I hope my dear friend you understand these questions. So now let's move to the next method, which is step deviation method. Step deviation method. Okay, so what is this method? Let's see that. So in step 1, first of all, again we have to classify the data into intervals and find the corresponding frequency of each class. Okay, step 2 is again we have to find the class marks by taking the midpoint of upper and lower class limit. Okay, now most important thing, the third step is take one of the xi, usually one in the middle, as assumed mean and denote it at by m. In this case, same also we have to assumed mean. Okay, now again find the deviation of from each of these xi. Di is equals to xi minus a. Now the next step is divide all deviations di by the class width to get ui. Okay, this is our ui by dividing the deviation by h. H is what? H is class width. H is what? Yeah, this is the class width. Okay, now next step is find the mean of ui, which is summation of fi ui divided by summation of fi. Okay, and calculate the mean, which is x bar, which is a plus h into summation of fi ui divided by summation of fi, which is equals to a plus h into u bar. A plus h into u bar. I hope, my dear friends, you understand these things. Okay, now let's understand this method by solving the question. Okay, so the question is same, which is what? Yeah, find the mean of the following distribution by step deviation method, which is class interval we have, and we have number of students, which is what? Which is fi, frequencies. Okay, now let's make the table. Yes, we have class interval and we have fi. Okay, and we have to find xi, means we have to find the class mark. So the class mark is the midpoint of the upper and class, upper limit and the lower limit, means the midpoint of class interval, which is, this is 17.5, this is 32.5, this is 47.5, this is 62.5. Okay, this is 77.5, and this is 92.5. Okay, now same again, we have to assume the mean. We have to assume the mean. Let's suppose we are assuming this as a. Okay, and we have to again find the deviation, which is equals to minus 30, because if we subtract 47.5 from 17.5, we get, yes, minus 30. And if we subtract 47.5 from 32.5, we get minus 15. And here is 0. And this will be 15. This will be 30. And this will be 45. Okay. You can assume 62.5 as a also, but we are assuming 47.5. Okay, there is no difference. Okay, now we have to find FIDI. And what is FIDI? So the FIDI is, here is, if you multiply this, we get minus 60, minus 45, here is 0, here is 90, and this is 180, and this is 270. Now in the next column, we have to find ui, which is what? Di upon h. H is what? The width of the class interval. What is? Yes, width of the class interval. So what is the width of the class interval? If we see that 25 minus 10 is what? 15. So 15 is what? Yeah, so we have h is equals to 15. So 15 is same in all these intervals. Okay, my dear friend, h is the constant in all the intervals. Okay, yes. Now we have di is what? Minus 30. Okay, and what is the value of u1? Means in the first interval we get minus 30 divided by 15, we get minus 2. If we divide minus 15 by 15, we get 1, minus 1, and this will be 0, this will be 1, this will be 2, and this will be 3. Now we have to find FIUI, means we have to multiply F1 into U1, F2 into U2, F3 into U3. So this will become 2 into minus 2, this is minus 4. 3 into minus 1, this is minus 3. 7 into 0, this is 0. 6 into 1, this is 6. And 6 into 2, this will be 12. 6 into 3, this will be 18. Okay, now we have to find summation of Fi Ui, means we have to add all these entries. So we get what? Yes, we get 29. We get, yes, 29. So now, my dear friends, we have submission of Fi and submission of Fi Ui. Okay, and from this, with the help of this data, we can easily find U bar. We can easily find U bar, which is equals to submission of Fi Ui divided by what? Submission of Fi. So we have 29 divided by 30. What is 29 divided by 30? Now we have to find X bar. So what is X bar? So the X bar is, in the steps we already seen that, which is equals to A plus H into U bar. Okay, and we have A is what? We have A 47.5 plus H is what? 15, which is the width. H is what? Yes, H is the width of the class interval. Okay, now we have U bar is 29 upon 30. Okay, and this will be cancelled 2 times. So we have 47.5 plus 14.5. If we add this, we get 62. So we have X bar is equals to 62. What is? Yes, 62. So my dear friends, I hope you understand this question. Yes, so the next is the relation between the mean of deviation and mean. Okay, what is mean of deviation? D bar is what? R mean of deviation. And mean is what? X bar is what? Mean. So my dear friends, we have to see the relation between them. We already know that X bar is equals to A plus D bar. Okay, so now here we are going to see the derivation of this formula. Okay, so now let's start. So now, my dear friends, we know that D bar is what? Submission of Fi Di divided by submission of Fi. Okay, summation of Fi Di divided by what? Summation of Fi. Now we know that submission of Fi, now in place of Di we can write it like this: Xi minus A divided by submission of Fi. So we already know Di is equals to what? Xi minus A. And A is what? A is our assumed mean. Okay, so now, my dear friends, here is D bar is equals to submission of Fi Xi minus submission of Fi into A divided by submission of Fi. Now we have to separate it. We get submission of Fi Xi divided by submission of Fi minus submission of Fi A upon submission of Fi. Now here A is what? A is constant, so we can cancel it very easily. So we get, and this will become what? Submission of Fi Xi upon submission of Fi is our X bar. So this is X bar minus A. Okay, and if we solve this, we get X bar is equals to A plus D bar. So this is our proof of the formula, of this formula. Okay, so this is, yes, hence proof. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you understand this relation. So the relation between mean and deviation is what? X bar is equals to A plus d bar. Okay, now let's see the relation between mean of step deviation, and mean. Means we have to find the relation between mean of step deviation. This is our mean of step deviation, and this is our what? Yes, this is our mean. Okay, yes. So now my dear friends, we know that mean of step deviation is what? Summation of fi ui divided by summation of fi. Okay, and since we know that ui is equals to xi minus a divided by h, we already seen in the previous slides. Okay, so this will become u bar is equals to summation of fi into xi minus a upon h divided by summation of fi. Okay, so now my dear friends, this will become, here is u bar is equals to, now from this we are taking h outside, so we get 1 upon h, big bracket, and this will become summation of fi xi, okay, minus a into summation of fi divided by summation of fi. Okay, and bracket close. So we have u bar is equals to 1 upon h, and if you separate this we get summation of fi xi divided by summation of fi minus a into summation of fi upon summation of fi. From this will be cancelled, and we have u bar is equals to 1 upon h. This will become x bar minus a. Okay, and we have my dear friends h into u bar, which is equals to x bar minus a. So we get x bar is equals to h into u bar plus a. So my dear friends, this is the formula which we used in the previous question. Okay, I hope you understand these things. Yeah. So now my dear friends, let's move on. So now my dear friends, important relations between methods of finding mean. Okay, now there is some relation between methods of finding the mean. What are these? All three methods, direct method, step deviation method, and assumed mean method. All three methods of finding mean yields the same result. Okay, and the step deviation method is easier to apply if all the deviations have a common factor. Okay, assumed mean method and the step deviation method are simplified version of the direct method. These are the simplified versions of the direct method. Okay, my dear friends, so now let's do some questions. Okay, yes. Question number 1 is, a survey was conducted by a group of students as a part of their environment awareness program. Okay, in which they collected the following data regarding the number of plants in 20 houses in a locality. Okay, now my dear friends, we have to find the mean number of plants per house. Okay, so we have number of plants and we have number of houses. Okay, so one house having number of plants between 0 to 2. Okay, two house we have number of plants between 2 to 4, and one house we have in which the number of plants are between 4 to 6. So like this is a table. Okay, now we have to find the mean number of plants per house. Okay, now my dear friends, in this case, to find the mean value we will use direct method, because the numerical values fi and xi are small. Numerical values, these values are small, fi xi. So we use the direct method. Okay, I hope you get this point. Now, first of all, we have to find the midpoints of this class interval, and we know that how to find it. Yes. Now we have a table like this. So midpoint is that 0 plus 2 divided by 2. This will is 1. 2 plus 4, which is 6, and divided by 2, 3. And if you find this, we get 5. And the midpoint of this, 7, 9, 11, and 13. Okay, and this is what fi, and this is our xi. Okay, and if we do the sum of these fi's, we get 20. What is? Yes, this will be 20. Now we have to find fi xi, means f1 into f2 x2, f2 into x2, f3 into x3, like this. So if we do 1 into 1, we get 1. 2 into 3, 6. 5 into 1, 5. 7 into 5, 35. 6 into 9, 54. 11 into 2, 22. 13 into 3, 39. Okay. Now we have to find the summation of fi xi. So we get 162. We get what? 162. Okay. Now we have to find the mean by the direct method, which is x bar is equal to summation of fi xi divided by summation of fi. So this will give 162 divided by 20, which is equals to 8.1. So x bar is equals to 8.1. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you understand these things. So this is our direct method. Okay, now let's move on. Yes, so the next question is, consider the following distribution of daily wages of 50 workers of a factory. Okay, now here is a table. There is the interval of daily wages, which is in rupees, and number of workers, means 12 workers having the daily wages between 100 to 120 rupees, and 14 workers having the daily wages between 120 to 140 rupees, and so on. Okay, find the mean daily wages of the workers of the factory by using an appropriate method. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you get this point. Now, my dear friends, in this case, the value of midpoint, which is what xi, is very large. If we find the midpoint of this value, we get 100 plus 120 divided by 2, which is equals to what? Which is equals to 220 divided by 2. So this will 110. Okay, so this is very large. So now, my dear friends, here is this value is larger, means the midpoint of the interval is large. Okay, so in this case we are finding the mean by the step deviation method. By what? Yes, step deviation method. So my dear friends, this is a tabular form. So we have, here is interval, daily wages, class interval, and here is number of workers, which is frequency. So this is fi, and we have to find the first of all midpoint. So the midpoint of this class interval is 110. The midpoint of class interval second is 130. Similarly, this is 150. This is 170. This is 190. And the summation of fi is what? 50. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you get this point. Now we have to find ui. Okay, so ui is what? Xi minus a divided by h, and we have h is what? 20. So the h is what? 20, which is constant in all the intervals. Class width is always constant in the, yes, in the table. Yes, so my dear friends, we are assuming the mean is 150, which is equals to a. So we have a is 150 and h is 20. Okay, now put the values in this. So xi means we have to put in x1. X1 is 110. Okay, and minus 150 and divided by 20. Now the value is minus 2. In this case the value is -1 and this will be 0, this will be 1 and this will be 2. If you solve this you can easily find these values. Okay, so this is our what? Ui. Okay, now we have to find FIUI. Okay, so this will become FIUI means now we have to multiply this and this, means 12 into -2, 14 into -1, like this. So we get -24, -14, 0, 6 and 20. Okay, now summation of FIUI. Okay, now we have to sum all these terms, so we get -12. Okay, what is? Yes, -12. So now, so the formula to find the mean is, we know that x bar is equals to a plus h into u bar. And what is u bar? This is a plus h into summation of Fi ui divided by summation of Fi. Okay, so we have a is what? We have a is 150 plus h we have 20 into FIUI, summation of FIUI is -12 divided by 50. Okay, my dear friends, I hope you get this point. Yes. So now if we solve this, we get 150 minus 4.8. Okay, so this will become 145.20. So we have x bar is 145.20. So this is the answer of this question. This is the answer of this question. Okay, I hope my dear friends you understand these things. So now my dear friends, this is enough for today and we will meet in the next lecture with the next amazing topic. So thank you very much guys for listening me and take care and goodbye.